let us bless the Most High. We give honor unto the highest power, who is adored, worshipped, magnified, and glorified. For he delivered us from sin and the sting which is death. We are grateful to the Most High, and we love you that you have allowed us in the presence of your holy Melek, Prophecied. For indeed he leads us unto you, unto the light. We are privileged to have the holy Malka, the covering of the prophet, who keeps the word of the Most High lifted up. And unto the prophet Crown Prince Yahiel and evangelist Crown Princess Eldara, we are blessed. We give thanks unto the royal house of the holy prophet and the Father, and those of you who are of the sovereign realm of this fourth house. Oh, we thank the Most High, for as his prophets of old revealed the things that came and are yet to come upon the earth, so the vessels of Yahweh, his prophets of this time and dispensation, declare, they pronounce, they decree the things that were known from the beginning and are yet being revealed unto us. So as we continue, beloved, even unto this time and the day in which we live, as we look about us and we see many things transpiring, even in light of this pandemic, as we see a great escalation in racial tensions that is happening in this country, we are blessed to have a revealer, a holy Malachi, to guide and navigate us through these troublous times. For he has declared and revealed the word of the Most High for not just these past few years, but unto 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Even so, he has been proclaiming what is to come, and thus preparing us as the righteous, holy elect to be ready, to make ready in this time of preparation. As we continue in the revealing of the book of the holy prophet, he prophesied unto us on April 11th of 1999 of the destruction of the black race. The holy Malachi declared, the past 7 to 8 years, as we have heard of reports of war of various nations committing genocide, we are back in that era. The spirit of it has been released. What those who are racist in America are going to try to do, and they have already, they are going to secretly commit genocide against the black race, because the black race is growing and increasing in popularity. They are filling many of the major cities in America, from New York to Atlanta to Chicago, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America. The majority of the population of these cities are black. And you cannot think for one moment that the government is not threatened by it, revealed the Holy Prophet. The voice of the highest power said, I am going to share something with you that the Most High spoke to me about. I'm going to tell you in relation to what I just said to you, what had happened in the early parts of the years of the 90s. In one of the major cities, there was a major heat wave, and it killed hundreds upon hundreds of blacks. Whites were killed as well, but the majority of them were blacks. People just thought it was a plain heat wave. The Father showed me, the Holy Prophet revealed, what caused it. When there is heat, the walls have a tendency to sweat. And in that there is a melting process. The gases within the paint, or whatever paint is made up of, released certain gases. The majority of those who died were those who lived in housing development projects. The Most High has allowed me this day to reveal the reason to you, the Holy Melek shared. As a cover-up, the government went in and refurbished these apartments because they learned that it did work. The Prophet on High said, they are preparing again to launch that same attack to commit genocide against a race of people called blacks. Thank the highest power that this is not a secret to us, because the Father and his prophets revealed it. No kind of cleanup could cover up anything from the Most High, because he has vessels, holy vessels, that reveal these things. Thus declared the Holy Prophet. As we continue to look at racism in this country, on September 8th of 2002, the Holy Nabi of the glory of heaven, he revealed that there would be a war of the races and a war of the two religions, as he uttered under the tabernacle in the Isles a year ago in 2001, when this prophecy was revealed. I spoke to you about the war of the races, and I told you also of the war of the two religions, Christianity and Islam. Christianity would rise up against Islam, and Islam against Christianity. We're coming to the time, moving in the time of the war of the races. The bitterness that will abide in the ethnic people will be against people of European descent that we see today. Beloved, we are seeing this escalation just as it was proclaimed in 2002, and over time it is coming to pass. As we continue, beloved, and we listen attentively, the mystery illumined shared with us on December 2nd of 2007 of Barack Obama being used and the image of the Edenic people being despised. The Prophet of Time asks the question, who has heard of Barack Obama? He is an Edenic black man running for office of the White House. The vessel of the Father said unto us, what you do not know about him is that it's a ploy. He is put in position and giving funding to run for office that perhaps if he wins or if he loses, it does not matter. He is not the one. He is just a figure placed in front. The voice of the Most High said, the Father showed me the government working together. I remind you, the Bible says that a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. How can two walk together except they be agreed? And he continued, for years, America has been divided into two political parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. This did not work. It had not proven successful. Where there is division in any government, in any head, there will be collapse of the nation. The prophet from on high continued, and he said unto us, oftentimes the Republicans, because of their favor, their wealth, they would have a place in office because of the wealth. The money and the wealthy that they favor, they would oftentimes have dominance in the office of government. For the first time, as the Most High has made known to you last year in 2006, that this would change. There would come a shifting in the government. The Holy Melek declared that the Republicans dominated, but now, for the first time, the Democrats outnumber. only because the government is blending as one. They make people to believe that there are yet two separate political parties. They are not. That is neither what matters now if you vote. Some years ago, at least 20 to 50 years ago, it mattered somewhat. Today, it neither matters if you vote. This man is used to join the two, but many do not see the joining because they do not understand what is happening. Never before in history has it ever been recorded in this country where a black man had run for president running close. Jesse Jackson did, but he did not come close. And you have to now wonder, why is he coming close? You might think because the people favor him of themselves. No, it is because every bit of his persona projects the opposite race. And he has the funding, and you cannot get that kind of money unless those in power give it to you. The Father showed me some things that shall be exposed about him, the Holy Prophet continued. The thing that will be exposed, the Most High said, will be a lie. One must be used to be brought down. This brings us to the demising of a people they wanted to make extinct in the earth called black people. The Most High showed me this, that the image of the Edenic man, the black man, will not only be demised, but the Father said, despised. Through this we know that the coming of Yahweh is near. And these are things that would not have been brought to our attention, our knowledge, unless the holy Malachi had revealed these unto us. Most are out there seeing two separate political parties and aligning themselves, feeling the importance of their vote. But as the Most High is revealed unto his people, it matters not. There is just one government. It is all a facade. It is theater played out before the people. Beloved, as declared by the holy Malachi of the Most High on May 1st of 2008, that there will be a rift in the nation, a rift of racism. The Holy Prophet declared, I told you of a rift in the nation of racism some 5 years ago in 2003. I kept you aware of it periodically. And what do you see happening? Even with Obama, I told you what would happen with him. When he was the favorite, I told you that he would be falsely accused, and what is brought about him would be a lie. A week later, it came on the news, and the lie was revealed. Ever since then, it has been that. It has only escalated. From as early as 1999, I warned the people of a rift in the nation in racism. It is unraveling. Thus spoke the holy Malachi. Beloved, let us look at the racial inequality in the United States to see the full picture. Racial inequality in the United States identifies the social advantages and disparities that affect different races here in the country. In social science, racial inequality is typically defined as imbalances in the distribution of power, economic resources, and opportunities. So racial inequalities have manifested in American societies in ways that are ranging in racial disparities in wealth, in poverty rates, housing patterns, educational opportunities, unemployment rates, and even incarceration rates. The current racial inequalities in the U.S. have had their roots in over 300 years of cultural, economic, physical, legal, and political discrimination based on race. Now, as you know, Africans were first brought here to the United States. They were enslaved and then carried over. And while free African Americans, once they were freed, owned around $50 million in around 1860, the farm tenancy and sharecropping that replaced slavery after the Civil War, because of these newly freed African American farmers, they did not own land or supplies. So they had to depend on white Americans who rented the land and supplies out to them. At the same time, Southern blacks were trapped in debt and denied banking services, while white citizens were given low-interest loans to set up farms in the Midwest and the United States. So these white homesteaders, they were even allowed to go west and claim through government grants free land, whereas these grants and rights were not given to African Americans. And after the Civil War, we need to take note that Freedmen's Bank, it helped to foster wealth accumulation for African Americans, first black-owned bank. However, it failed in 1874, partially because they gave suspicious high-risk loans to white banks, and then the Panic of 1873. And this lowered the support of African Americans in terms of them being able to open businesses and acquire wealth. In addition, I have to add that after the bank failed, taking the assets of many African Americans with it, at that point, African Americans did not trust banks. There was also the threat of being lynched to any African American who achieved success. In addition, as we're looking through time, when Social Security was first created during the Great Depression, it exempted agricultural and domestic workers, which disproportionately affected, of course, African Americans and Hispanics, because we were primarily those working in agriculture and the domestics. The new Social Security did not include them. So consequently, any savings, anything that had been set aside, this is how wealth is acquired. This had to be used to support the households. It was all systematically planned. The Homeowners Loan Corporation that helped homeowners during the Great Depression gave African American neighborhoods the lowest rating, ensuring that they defaulted at greater rates than white Americans. And through the FHA, the Federal Housing Authority, and the Veterans Administration, they shut out African Americans by giving loans to the suburbs instead of the central cities after they were first founded. As we see, as the prophecy had went forth, and most African Americans were growing in the large urban areas of the cities, the largest cities. But the FHA now, in their new loans, were giving those loans to the rural areas, of course, where the white Americans live. Beloved, we see segregation in housing. And one of the key legislations was the National Housing Act of 1934, the GI Bill, and the Fair Housing Act. And these factors, such as socioeconomic status and immigration, contributed to them perpetuating housing segregation. And the effects of housing segregation include relocation, include poverty, it's led unto poverty. And though they've created the Section 8 program, they found that racial segregation doubled from 1880 to 1940. We have to give you the history. This is hundreds of years of racial depression that has been pressed upon the people. Southern urban areas were the most segregated, meaning people forced into an area to live. Segregation was highly correlated with the lynchings of African Americans. And while it has adversely affected both black and white home ownership rates, we have to understand that the black home ownership rates were greatly affected because the fundings was given into the rural areas and not unto the urban areas. Education in the United States recognizes the funding for public education relies greatly on local property taxes. Local property tax revenues may vary between different neighborhoods and school districts. And this variance of property tax revenues amongst neighborhoods and school districts leads to inequality in education. This inequality manifests itself in the form of available school financial resources that provide educational opportunities, facilities, and programs for the students. And this goes back to the racial and residential segregation. This also affects us in terms of its education systems. For residential segregation and poverty concentration is mostly marked and seen in the comparison between the urban and suburban populations, in which suburbs consist of majority white populations and inner cities consist of majority minority populations. And thus, the educational system is affected by this disparity. I'll bring you present day, and this is an article that was written in Texas Monthly on December 10th of 2015. States a tale of two schools, South Oak Cliff High and Highland Park, fund disparity. On Monday afternoon, about 250 students at South Oak Cliff High School in Dallas staged a walkout protest to their school's crumbling conditions. And Dave Johnson is one of the protest organizers, and he's also the quarterback of the football team, the student. He painted a grim picture in the statement that he sent to the media ahead of the protests. Said the purpose of our assembling is to expose our school board and city of Dallas, the horrible conditions of South Oak Cliff where we attend. The building leaks, the building is cold and damp, parts of the building have classrooms with unbearable heat because the temperatures cannot be regulated. Students have to be instructed in the hallways instead of regular classrooms. Students have taken ill because of the temperature extremes. When it rains, the roof leaks terribly. The hallways are riddled with buckets. Last month, voters passed a $1.6 billion bond program, as this article continues, that will find a number of these improvements across DISD schools fixed, as they say. And they determined that $13 million would go toward the South Oak Cliff High School. But the students were angry because they said, we need this now. We can't wait another year. And the problem goes beyond HVAC woes. These leaky roofs, unbearably hot, cold classrooms, gas leaks. The students, they expressed this disappointment because even teachers have quit. 1/3 of the teachers in the DISD have quit annually because of the conditions. Also onto the health problems that affects their learning, because it has been found that the environment that you are in greatly affects your ability to grasp, comprehend, and learn those things that are taught to you. But what they found elsewhere in Dallas, under the same DISD, Dallas Independent School District bond that was approved, the Highland Park ISD narrowly passed a $361 million bond. It was narrowly passed. The largest bond in the district's history, Highland Park, which will fund the construction of a new elementary school, new buildings, and renovations at existing campuses, was the subject of some derision. Passing the bond would mean much added needed real estate to be in the overcrowded district, that it would have to be assigned to open up the opportunity for Section 8 housing to move in. And Highland Park residents allegedly sent emails expressing their disapproval of the bond, fearing that it would bring low-income housing projects, crime, and they said even Middle Eastern refugees to their district. And since Highland Park is technically its own town, that's how he created it, a wealthy island unto itself, built and constructed as a refuge for an increasingly diverse city. That's how they label it. Its school district is vastly different from the Dallas Independent School District. So whereas at the Highland Park High School is about 89% white, 9.3% of its students were at risk of dropping out, and none of its students are economically disadvantaged. South Oak Cliff, on the other hand, has 4 white students. 84% of their students are at the risk of dropping out. 84% compared to 9.3%. And 83.8% of the students at South Oak Cliff were economically disadvantaged. Remember, in the Highland Park Independent School District, none of its students were economically disadvantaged. Whereas in South Oak Cliff, 83.8% were economically disadvantaged. As a whole, 68.4% of DISD students are at risk, and over 85% economically disadvantaged, whereas only 10% of Highland Park's ISD students are at risk of not graduating, and none are economically disadvantaged. Such is the flaw of a system that allows enclaves to erect public schools that only students with a certain net worth can access. South Oak Cliff High is less than 15 miles from its Highland Park counterpart. One is incredibly unfunded and falling apart, and the other is easily one of the best public schools in America, with families buying million-dollar homes just so that their kids can have a halfway decent education. And in this tale of the two school districts, it's the best of schools and the worst of schools. This article was revealed in 2015, and I have to say unto you that most recently, in light of the racial tensions and injustices going on in this country, that the students of Highland Park actually staged their own protests against racial inequality. Regardless of what the parents have done, even now this younger generation has joined in this trend, this effect, this wave, the following now to voice their way in the manner of protest. Crime rates and incarceration has also greatly affected the racial tension in this country and the inequality and injustice. In 2008, the prison population under the federal and state correctional jurisdiction was over 1,600,000 prisoners. And out of this 1,600,000 prisoners, 20% were Hispanic, 34% were white, but compared to their population, they have 6.63% of the population in the U.S. 38% were black, but we only make up 12.6% of the population in the U.S. Additionally, black males were imprisoned at a rate of 6.5 times higher than that of their white counterparts. And according to a 2012 study by the U.S. Census Bureau, over half of the inmates incarcerated in our nation's jails is either black or Hispanic. They found that from the 2012 consensus. And after being released from prison, the consequences of having a criminal record are immense. Over 40% who have been released will return to prison within the next few years, their research has found. And those with criminal records who do not return to prison, they face significant struggles finding quality employment and income that will be able to help them to take care of their families. And we see now, beloved, how in the report on yesterday, how it was revealed how President Trump, who's been proclaimed as a gateway for the Adenic, the African Americans, how through the changes he made and implemented during these 4 years in prison reform, making ways that prisoners who come out can get an education, programs to help them, assist them in getting jobs, even unto releasing as many as possible, lowering the time for the crimes. We witness police brutality. We know that is all about us. It is ever so prevalent right now. And I have to mention to you that in 1929, as we look at the whole picture, the Illinois Crime Survey reported that although African Americans only made up 5% of Illinois' population, they consisted of 30% of victims of police killings. During the era of the civil rights era, the existence of racial disparities surrounding police brutality only became more evident. And there are a number of cases we revealed in previous reports, as you see before you today in the media, of many who are being held at the force of police brutality. There are some cases, and we must be truthful, where crimes were permitted. But the overall injustice of brutality and the bias is unconscionable. There's what they call now, as they are trying to escalate, they're calling this colorblind racism. And this is hypothesized by their scholars that in the post-civil rights era, the United States has now switched to a new form of racism known as colorblind racism. And colorblind racism refers to the contemporary racial inequality as the outcome of a non-racial dynamic. What they are trying to say is that this new racism in the country, it's subtle, it's institutional, and they tried to say it's non-racial. Colorblind racism flourishes on the idea that race is no longer an issue in this country, and that there are non-racial explanations for the state of inequality in the U.S. And they try to give it 4 different points of view. They call it abstract liberalism, meaning the political point of view a person may have. Neutralization. This explains racial inequality as a cause of natural occurrences. It claims that segregation is not the result of racial dynamics. Instead, it's the result of the naturally occurring phenomenon of individuals choosing likeness as their preference. They're calling it cultural racism and minimization racism. So now there's this undercurrent trying to make racism colorblind so that it does not become an issue of black or white, but they're trying to say this racism because of social issues. Natural disasters also, beloved, affect the racial inequality in this country. When a natural disaster strikes, be it a hurricane or a tornado or fire, some people are inherently more prepared than others. And that while all populations are affected by disasters, the research findings show that racial and ethnic minorities are less likely to evacuate and more affected by these disasters. And a lot of this has to do with their finances. Where can you evacuate to if you don't have the finances to go there? During Hurricane Katrina, the large number of people seeking safety in designated shelters were disproportionately black. In addition, the mortality rate for blacks was about 1.7 to 4 times higher than that of whites for all people over age 18. After Hurricane Katrina, many African Americans felt abandoned by the United States government, and 66% of African Americans said that the government's response to Katrina would have been faster if most of the victims had been white. For a disproportionate share of the impoverished in New Orleans, many had and continue to have a difficult time preparing for storms. And these factors, such as cultural ignorance, ethnic insensitivity, racial isolation, and racial bias in housing, in information dissemination, in relief assistance, all greatly contribute to the disparities in disaster preparedness. So these disasters, you'll find they also affect us in terms of the inequality of the races. As we share with you, wealth is a very important, it is the foundation, it is a base for racial inequality. Whereas at one point in this country, there were over 100 black-owned banks. That number has dwindled now to less than 20 because of the hardships faced upon them, because of the amount of capital they've been allowed to raise, and because of even the racial injustices that black banks face. And now it has been reduced to the point that they are almost disappearing. Wealth is accumulated. Families come together, beloved. They work, they save, they pool their resources. And for this is why you find that the average wealth for the white households is noted at about $656,000 compared to over a lifetime. When you look at the black households over the span of time, all the resources pooled amount to perhaps $85,000. Look at the disparity. $665,000 compared to $85,000. In fact, as mentioned, it will take the average black family 228 years to accrue the same amount of wealth that white families have today. My goodness. After World War II, for example, predominantly white families received government-subsidized mortgages that allowed them to purchase homes while black families didn't. All of these structures have been driving forces to creating inequalities and disfranchising amongst the races. It all has played its major part. And we are being made aware of this, beloved, that we can see, understand, and know the full picture. The Most High has revealed unto us, oh my goodness, those things that would come, the racial tensions that would escalate, how a people being despised would be destroyed. But the knowledge is brought unto us that we would not be destroyed, but we shall prevail. The racial injustice and inequality inflicted upon people of color in this country, it's beyond reproach. Yes, it is a travesty. But as the elect remnant, we are blessed, beloved. We are blessed that we have been predestined by the Father to come under the covering of his holy Melek. For without him, we would be out fighting a war blindly, without direction or recourse. The Most High has made us to know of the things to come for more than 20 years. And thus we have been able to prepare and to go through the troubling times, while yet feeling the effects of nearly 400 years of being held captive and suffering the abuse. The Father truly loves his people and have always provided for us on this journey to the end as we continue in the revealing of the book of the prophet. For as it was declared on February 16th of the year 2000, 20 years ago, beloved, that there be favor upon African Americans. It was 2 days ago, on February 14, 2000, when the Father dealt with me and brought me to an open forum where the President now of the United States of America, whose name is Clinton, uttered words in behalf of the African American people. As I listened in the vision, I knew that this would be something that is to come. But the plan of it has already gone in motion. What is to be done in this agreement under this party government before it leaves office will cause Black Americans to be in favorable positions where you will prosper financially and receive government assistance in ways you have never imagined before. I heard Bill Clinton utter these words: "We must be pardoned." And when he uttered those words, I stopped to listen even more attentively, the Holy Melek said. White America must be pardoned for what we have mistreated this people, and we would not confess it. We must be pardoned. And he said, in office, for the short time that I have, I will do all in my power to see to it that they are given back what is theirs. The Most High showed this to his holy prophet. The Father spoke the word unto his holy vessel, and he said, "My son, I place it in his heart. For this is the hour of reaping. It is the hour of gathering. I declare unto thee, my son, as ye utter these things unto the ears of thy people, make them to know that they must gather as you gather. But what they gather, ye shall not gather. Ye shall continue to gather the elect remnant of Israel. I command them to gather the wealth of Israel. Ye shall not gather as they gather, my son. I shall give thee, but I shall give thy people strength to gather." The Holy Prophet revealed that the Most High is saying, I am going to open doors for you, give you the strength, give you the favor that you will be able to take, come into, gather, and prosper. But as for my prophet, he will not do such a thing, for he must continue to do what has been purposed to do in the gathering of those like you. I will give him, saith the Most High. The doors are open to prosper. The door is open to obtain wealth, but it is so that his work can be established and the safe place made ready. Glory unto the Most High. For as the Holy Melek continued, even as this was made known unto me, he said, it has already gone into motion. But it has gone into motion in secret. But later it shall be caught up in the winds and be carried for many to hear and know of it. For the next party government that will come will be against it, to do all in their power to stop this. The Most High have said, and have shown it unto me, the Holy Malachi declared. So while ye have favor, he said, take all and leave nothing. The Holy Prophet uttered, this was set in motion from the time when Moses gave the word. It was a perpetual prophecy. For this day it is come to pass. The hour of peace is at hand for harvesting and reaping. This is the hour, beloved people of the Most High, as the Holy Malachi revealed. And thus we close the book this hour. Beloved, we have all that we need. All has been placed before us. And we've been blessed to have a prophet from on high to not just lead us and guide us unto all truth, but as the perfect example has showed us the way, given us sound instruction, and the confidence to know that we will come through this. Beloved, we must continue to search out. We must continue to deal with ourselves and be truthful, that we will come to the place that the Most High can say unto us, well done, my good, faithful servant. As we give honor unto the Most High and His holy Maliki, Prophet Shaddai.